Hey everyone, it's Caitlin and welcome to another episode. Today is going to be a little bit different and it's story time of how I was once a crazy, unhealthy vegan. Okay, so if you are vegan, you are probably familiar with such diets as the high carb raw vegan diet, raw till 4, or a high fat raw vegan diet, anything like that, or 80-10-10, these types of diets. These were all diets that I had followed back in the day, let me tell you. And specifically when I was high carb, I, followed several people and ate a shit ton of fruit. And I'm not even kidding you. I would buy, 7 to 10 bundles of bananas when I would do groceries. And I would intentionally buy them when they were at different stages in ripening. So I'd get really green bundles of bananas, somewhat yellow and then like pretty yellow. So I could have a constant rotation of ripe bananas to get me through the week. And I would make smoothies that would have 7 to 10 bananas for breakfast. So right in there for breakfast, I'm at least consuming probably ballpark 1,000 calories for breakfast. I would eat, 10 mangoes and a serving of tofu, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Hella delicious still, but I would eat a shit ton of fruit. Needless to say, whether I was following a high fat raw vegan diet, high carb, low fat raw vegan diet, or raw till 4, which is essentially the same as a raw vegan diet, just with some cooked foods after 4, I was super unhealthy. I was also, didn't realize it at the time, orthorexic, because I became so fixated on healthy eating, trying to obtain optimal health through food or like through pure, for lack of a better word, foods, that I was becoming unhealthy as a result of it. My long-term health, my longevity was suffering based on my trying to eat as clean as possible. And so my diet was really restrictive. To begin, when I became vegan, over 9 years ago, I kind of, was eating cooked foods and everything, and then, doing my research, I found people online and started practicing what they were saying, and I first off started by following a high fat, more so raw vegan diet. So I was eating a shit ton of nuts. I was eating a lot of things like coconut oil. So my diet was really heavy in fats. I was really excited, still am excited right now about food. And I would just, experiment to see what it was that I can make with these plant-based ingredients, like raw cheesecakes, like a lot of raw desserts was my go-to because I love sweets so much. But over time, by following that diet, I became sick. I wasn't feeling well. I became lethargic. I didn't have energy. My mind was so, I don't know how to describe it other than like cloudy, foggy. It was hard for me to, be in a room with the blinds open if there was a window because the light was just really irritating and I couldn't concentrate. And ultimately, by following that diet, I developed a candida overgrowth, which felt like was plaguing my life for 2 years. I was so uncomfortable in my body. I was so, my self-esteem was at an all-time low. I couldn't bear to be touched by people because I was literally just incredibly disgusted being in my body that I just tried so many things to get rid of this candida overgrowth, which I thought was like, it felt like was plaguing my life for 2 years. And for me, the candida overgrowth, because it can come out in several different ways, was more so like a very disgusting and persistent yeast infection that, like, oh my God, I tell you, I have to talk about it because experiences, right? And so, I tried multiple things to get rid of, specifically the candida overgrowth because I was so just, like I said, uncomfortable in my body. I would go to my doctor. I tried the things that my doctor prescribed. That didn't work. I tried things like over-the-counter medicine at my local stores. I saw a naturopath. What was recommended to me didn't work. I went to my local health food stores, tried the things that they recommended. I tried so many things over this period of time, and even like did this lemon thing where I ate like lemons and drank pure lemon juice. Like I would juice lemons and drink it. Really bad for my teeth, let me tell you. I never had an issue, but I did after that. So I tried all of these things, and ultimately, like, I tried stripping, like I stripped carbs from my diet for at least 2 months. And while the other symptoms, you know, kind of went away, the candida itself, like the overgrowth got worse. Like my clarity, you know, that fogginess kind of like went away and everything, but the candida itself got really worse. And while I was doing that low carb diet, and so being vegan, your diet's already restrictive. So having to restrict carbs from your diet even makes that so much harder, right? And so for those 2 months, I can only describe it as having this uncontrollable hunger. I would binge on nuts and seeds and these things that I could eat, to the point that I was physically like in pain. I was so full, I was so uncomfortable, but like I was ravenous still. I just needed to eat. So clearly this diet wasn't working, or, you know, this low carb approach. And I was just so ravenous. Like I was so uncomfortable. I couldn't cross my legs. I was very clearly deficient, nutrient deficient. I couldn't cross my legs without my legs going numb. I couldn't stand up quickly. Like I had to stand up slowly, get my bearings, grab onto something, because I would get really lightheaded and very dizzy. So I had to grab something to kind of, you know, stand there for a second to get my bearings in place. And then ultimately, long story short, I did the high carb approach because I read this book saying that fats were the issue. So I, you know, cleared fats from my diet and focused strictly on carbs. And lo and behold, my candida overgrowth was gone. And this really fueled my orthorexia, because then I became terrified of consuming fats, because I was terrified of developing another candida overgrowth, that I just was so terrified of fats and didn't want to eat them, because I didn't want this thing to come back that I struggled with for almost 2 years. And I was still fixated on the idea of clean eating, so like unprocessed foods, so fruits, veggies, you get the drift. And so I ate predominantly fruits, and as I mentioned, I ate a shit ton of bananas, I ate a shit ton of mangoes, I ate a shit ton of dates, all of these really calorically dense foods, and my teeth suffered from doing that lemon thing. I switched to toothpaste that didn't have fluoride in it. I got cavities and all this stuff. So I developed like these issues with my teeth that I never once had before. Transitioning to this high carb approach and eating a shit ton of fruit, I gained weight. I've since coming off have lost over 20 pounds. I developed severe cystic acne following this high carb approach, and even still during the Raw Till 4 approach, to the point, obviously, it developed again self-confidence issues, constantly breaking out in cystic acne. And when I thought that it was finally going away, I would break out again. So my face was always inflamed. I always had these red blotches and just really like large cystic pimples underneath the skin that, if you have cystic acne, it takes such a long time, weeks to go away. So I developed that, I gained weight, I had issues with my teeth, my digestion wasn't the greatest, but I clung on to it because I was so afraid of this, I was gonna say cystic acne, because I didn't want this candida overgrowth to come back. I was terrified. And I was, again, clinging to this idea of having to be, you know, as clean as possible with my diet. I did, you know, I was afraid of chemicals, trying to be as chemical free as possible, and all of these things. So I was super unhealthy, let me tell you, having my diet been so restrictive for so long and eating such large amounts of foods. That's definitely one thing that I've noticed a difference in my hunger since, because in those diets they promote eating until like as much as you want until you're full. So I find that I still have I can eat a lot more than what I should. But yeah, I was a super crazy unhealthy vegan. I look back on the ways that I used to eat, and like I used to heavily promote how I ate too, and I'm so sorry if you knew me back then and you had to experience that now. I definitely do not recommend these types of diets. I definitely recommend a well-balanced diet that takes into consideration all your macros, so fats, carbs, and your proteins. Anything that heavily restricts one macronutrient, you're gonna experience probably issues in the long haul. Fats are definitely needed, especially when it comes to your hormonal health, ladies. So I can only imagine by following these diets how unhealthy, if I would have stuck to it, longer than I had, how that would have affected me, in terms of nutrient deficiencies, my hormones itself, if that would have affected my periods, and all of these different things, because guaranteed I was unhealthy back then. And the reason why I want to talk about this is learning experiences. I definitely learned a lot from this, and I feel that in sharing this, that hopefully you take something away from it as well. B, I became very orthorexic in trying to find, be as healthy as possible through diet. I became very fixated on it, which I do feel is something that can easily happen without realizing it. And so I do feel that it is important to talk about as well. And 3, I also want to emphasize that you can be unhealthy regardless of the diet that you choose. So a lot of the times I feel that a vegan diet, the way that it's promoted, at least by some people, some vegans in the community, is that it's kind of like the holy grail of, health. Like, you're not going to get sick, or it's kind of an amazing preventative medicine in terms of illness, when you can be vegan and you can be unhealthy, just like you can eat meat and you can be unhealthy. It's all about trying to find balance within your diet and not heavily restricting, certain food groups as well. So with all of that being said, please don't do what I did. Don't eat a copious amount of fruit unless you just genuinely enjoy it. Know that you can eat a well-balanced diet. You don't necessarily need to be afraid of certain macronutrients, and that you can eat them and be healthy. So yes, don't spend a copious amount of money following a vegan diet unless you're able to afford it, because I was spending $400+ a month on groceries for one person. That was dedication to my craziness. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you've taken something away from this, and at the very least, you can certainly judge me and the way that I used to eat back in the day and how I promoted a vegan diet. Well, all that being said, I hope you have yourself a super fantastic day. I will see you all next time, and in the meantime, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. You can leave a comment down below, and at the same time, while you're here, why don't you just hit that subscribe button? Until next time, I'll see you all later. Bye.